Thank y'all for joining me for my faith talk this morning. As most of y'all probably know, I am Eli Reese, son of Chris and Jennifer Reese, and younger brother to Jacob. To start things off, we're going to discuss a question with our neighbors. What is your most favorite story of all time, and why? Speak amongst yourselves for a bit, and I'll reel things back in once I feel the crowd has hushed. Okay, so hopefully you learned something new about someone this morning, or maybe you already knew their answer. But this morning I'm giving my faith talk on stories. And I've always loved stories, but that's nothing unique because I don't know if there's anyone on this planet who doesn't love a good story. But as much as I love stories, I used to hate learning about history. And my mom can vouch for this. But history is pretty much just stories that really happened, or at least stories that happened in a material sense. Looking back, I think I didn't like learning about history because I wasn't taught its importance and relevance, or at least I didn't want to listen to its importance and relevance. But now, as my most mature and intellectual version of myself, I I understand that history is the context to our world. It's the story of why the world is the way it is and the recorded story of humanity. Now, if you yourself still hate learning history, that's probably because you haven't come around to it and grown up yet, so stop being a baby. But how does me not understanding the importance of history relate to my talk this morning? Well, I'm going to share one of my very own stories today in a fun and creative way. It's a story about the importance and relevance of stories. So I hope you understand stories a little better after my talk, and you'll appreciate them more than you already do. So gather round, friends. I have a tale this morning. A tale that never ends and has a hero who is anything but boring. A story so profound and true. Dare to listen, and it will affect you. That's all the rhyming I got. But once upon a time, there was a humble knight named Zanzibar. Now Zanzibar came from the dense jungles of Caledonia. She spent most of her life training as a knight to stave off the evils of the world. The biggest of all was a wizard named Noctarius the Fallen. But after finally achieving her dreams of slaying dragons and ghouls, protecting the weak, and reclaiming lost treasures, when she arrived back home, laid her head to rest, she always wondered, what made her want to do this with her life? She thought it was the fairy tales and legends her elders told her as a hatchling that inspired her. Or it could have been her ego wanting to share the tallest tale around the fire with her companions. Or maybe it was her chasing the next biggest feat that might just be the end of her story. However, she knew it was none of these thoughts, and she decided to embark on her deepest quest yet, beginning with a seemingly simple question. What is a story? So there Zanzibar was, setting out in the land, seeking answers, at the edge of the known and the unknown. She wandered new trails for countless hours and went only where her feet led her. Eventually, by nightfall, as if fate smiled on her, her one eye caught a village glowing in the distance. She hurried with what little strength she had left, because minions of the evil wizard prowled in the darkness. When she entered this small scatter of houses, an inn was her first priority to lay her head down, but there were none to be found. Curiously, a door to one of the houses she passed by was left open, almost inviting her in. She was cautious, of course. She had no ill will entering this home, but she couldn't resist seeing at least who might be so daring to leave their home open to anyone. As she closes the door behind her, creak! It squeaks louder than she would have liked. Nervously, she calls out, "Hello, is anyone there?" "Yes, hello! You are welcome here. I was hoping to have company tonight," a stranger replied from out of sight in the living room. Upon greeting the stranger, Zanzibar was relieved. "Nice to meet you, new friend. My name is Aesop, and you are?" "Zanzibar. I am a knight in search of answers to deep questions." "Well, Zanzibar the knight, you have some nerve waltzing into a stranger's house, but I reward just the type of souls like you. Brave, but gentle." Zanzibar didn't know what to think about this strange old owl, other than he seemed lonely, but hospitable. "You look exhausted. Please sit with me. Tell me again, what answers exactly are you looking for?" They sat down by his hearth, and Zanzibar opened up about how she longed to know what stories were, their meaning and purpose. The owl sat back deeply in his wooden chair, crossed his arms, and squinted his eyes to ponder. He was silent for a moment, but then looked back at her. What a tough and timeless puzzle. I may have some knowledge on these matters, as I do love stories myself." Zanzibar leaned in with intrigue as he continued. "To me, a story is many things. At their core, stories are the way we make sense of the world. They're how we think and see the world. A story is more than a sequence of events. It's an arrangement that gives meaning to what happens. By selecting what to include and what to leave out, stories turn chaos into coherence." Zanzibar's eyes widened as she hadn't expected these profound answers. They made sense to her. It was obvious Aesop the owl knew more than what he let on about stories. "Tell me more," Zanzibar asked. Aesop smiled at this and continued. "The way I see it, the world is infinitely complex to us creatures. Even with our ability to think, there's so much going on all the time that it would be impossible to prioritize what to do unless there was some structure that gave value to certain things over other things. Stories could be a gift from a higher power so that we can guide our lives. Your life is a small story inside of a bigger story, and depending on what you believe for your story and the world's story will shape what you think and do." This response left Zanzibar with more questions than before. "Let me make sure I have this right. You're saying stories are how we interpret the world and determine our values?" "Precisely." "What about why we share our stories and others share theirs to us? Why would we do such things?" Zanzibar inquired. "Sharing our personal experiences brings us closer to one another. When we understand people's stories, and them ours, it bonds us. Stories are the best teachers as well, of course, passing down wisdom so you can see repeating patterns in reality and remember what to do in certain situations. This is why we tell our children bedtime stories. They're easy to remember and have so much information." Zanzibar's mind was spinning with the truth of Aesop's words, though she began to doze off even with her efforts of staying attentive. "Speaking of bedtime, it appears you need rest. Please, find my guest room upstairs and enjoy the fresh bed. I will have breakfast ready in the morning when you wake." So Zanzibar thanked Aesop for his generosity and struggled her way to the tidy guest room, and it wasn't long before she was enjoying some of the best sleep of her life. She dreamt of all the things Aesop told her. She wondered what story she believed in. Maybe this story she perceived the world through was the very reason she became an adventurous, brave knight. But what story did she believe? What if it was wrong? Is there a story more right than another? Again, her mind spun with questions as she dozed off to sleep. But then, in the silence of the night, a window breaking downstairs, Zanzibar grabbed her sword and raced as fast as her half-awake body would let her. But she was too late. She found Aesop lying on the floor. "Aesop, no! Who did this?" Zanzibar went near to him and saw his wounds were strange. "It was those vile minions. They're gone now. They just hate it when honest people seek the truth." "Please, hold on now. I can get you help. The world needs wisdom like yours." Aesop was fading quickly. No. It's okay. My time has come. But please, take these fables of mine. The evil wizard may have gotten me, but he can never squander the truth in these stories." "You have my word." Aesop smiled one last time and closed his eyes. Zanzibar felt guilty for not being able to save Aesop. But she knew she would not let his death be in vain. She gathered the fables from the floor and tucked them into her boot. Then she left his home and found a guard to notify about the murder. The sun was coming up now, and Zanzibar wondered where she might go from here. For she still had unanswered questions about what the right story to believe in was. So she set out to continue her quest, going on only where her feet led her. The end. Hopefully y'all like that. Not too cheesy, but thought it'd be a fun way to start off my talk. Though the rest of my talk this morning is not in a story format. It is more content on stories. So that's exciting, right? So now that we know what a story is because of Aesop the Wise Owl, I'm sure you're still wondering, why do stories matter so much to us? I'm not sure if you've ever thought about it. It's not something you think about every day, but to me, it's not immediately self-evident why people make such big sacrifices just to observe stories. I mean, we line up out the door, pay good money, and spend hours of our short lives just to see things that most of the time aren't even real. Or better yet, nowadays we pay even more money and spend hours of our lives streaming and binging stories that, again, aren't even real. Furthermore, politics are just a way to, pick a side of which story you believe, and it can bring us together, divide us. It's all stories, but why do they matter? So going back to what stories are practically, the way we make sense of the world, the way we guide our lives, the best connection with one another, and teachers to all, stories are arrangements that give us meaning. So now it starts to make sense why we go out of our way to witness stories. They give us meaning. Furthermore, in Genesis 1:27, it explains we're made in the image of God, of course, and therefore it makes even more sense why stories matter to us, because we're made in the image of a storytelling God. The greatest storyteller of all and maker of all made us in his image. It's natural to us to be story fanatics. So now we know what stories are, why they matter to us, but if they guide our lives and give us meaning, what stories are people believing these days to guide their lives and give them meaning? The most popular of which is religious stories. Humanity was created by a god, gods, or divine force for a purpose, fell away from that, and we can return to it through enlightenment, obedience, and faith. There's also progression or utopia. Humanity began in ignorance and hardship, but is slowly improving through knowledge, technology, and social evolution. This was the main narrative in the Enlightenment, that reason and science will solve problems once ruled by superstition. There's also modern secular humanism. Progress only happens when we expand rights, freedom, and equality. There's also the contrary to that, tragedy and dystopia. Humanity is flawed, prone to repeat mistakes, and progress is an illusion. Decline or self-destruction is inevitable. Think nihilism or everything is meaningless. Dystopian stories like 1984 or Brave New World. There's also conflict narratives. Power rules all, and history is a story of struggle between classes, tribes, races, or ideas. And progress only happens through conflict. Everything's a power game, and whoever has the most power wins. And then there's the catch-all for everything else. The simulation and absurdism. People have had a lot of wacky ideas explaining the stories of humanity. And so this brings us neatly back to what Zanzibar set out on her latest quest with. What's the right story to believe? Well, we know the answer. It's God's story. God made everything. We fell from God. We're redeemed with God. Jesus paid for our sins. And in the future, we will be restored. But right now here, we're fighting for our lives. So, as I bring my talk to a close, though I could go on for quite a bit longer on some other content, if y'all wish, because we do have plenty of time. We know what stories are. They're how we understand reality, why they matter. They give us meaning. And what the best story of all is, it's God's story.